Hi everyone and welcome to the third episode of the Definitive Guide to CAT. In today's video, we are going to cover the CAT application form. Of course, once the actual registration window begins in the month of August, we release a video on the detailed form filling guidelines. But this video is to help you understand what are the documents that are required, and you will be able to take care of those documentation and all the other things that you need to keep in mind when it comes to the application form is what we're going to cover in this video. So let's begin.
To book a free one-on-one MBA counseling online or at any IMS center, check out the link in the description box or the pinned comment below.
Now, when you look at the CAT application form, right, as we discussed in the second episode, that the timeline of CAT registration, that it starts in August, continues till September, CAT is conducted in November, and then the results are announced in December. So we'll be talking about the sections of the CAT application form. So what different sections are there. We'll talk about the important documents that you need, how work experience is handled, and some of the things that you need to take care of regarding work experience, the selection of programs bit, and we'll talk about the frequently asked questions that students have. We'll cover these not separately but as part of the whole video. So watch it till the end. Now, when you look at the sections of the CAT application form, which is what the first thing that we'll talk about, broadly it talks about your entire profile, right? So starting from your academic record, your personal details, your work experience, the program selection, and then there is a declaration, etc. So part of that is going to be uploading documents that are related to your profile, and primarily the important documents are going to be the category certificate and the 10, 12 mark sheets and all those other things, right? So we'll be talking about all of them as we progress. Now, what are the documents that you're going to need on the CAT application form? Let's talk about that first. First is going to be the category certificate. Now, if you're somebody who belongs to any of the categories, whether it is EWS, NCOBC, SC, ST, if you belong to any of these categories, you're going to have documentation for it. And regarding the documentation, a lot of students have a very, if you look at the attitude that a lot of students have, is that they will wait for the CAT registration to begin and then they will start gathering these documents. And that is why we are making this video, that you do it much earlier so that by the time CAT application begins, you have the documents in place. Now, there is a CAT format that is available on the CAT website. So do you need to have document in the exact same format? No. So on the CAT website, you will find a prescribed format. If you do not have a category certificate at this point of time, but you're eligible, in that case, you can use the CAT format and then you can apply for the certificate at the local offices that issue these certificates. But if you already have an existing certificate which covers all the points that are mentioned on the CAT format, then you can use the certificate as it is. So you don't have to make a new certificate in that case. But the certificate has to be valid. So when you look at NCOBC and EWS certificates, they have validity because they are related to the income. So when you look at NCOBC, the non-creamy layer, and the EWS certificate, both of them are dependent on the income. If you look at SC and ST, it is independent of the income. And that is why if you look at EWS and NCOBC certificates, they have validity because they are on a certain criteria which is related to income, and that can change from year to year. Okay, so category certificate. The second is going to be disability certificate. If you belong to any form of disability, so if you look at the IM seat matrix as well, you will see that there are seats that are specifically designated for the PWD candidates. So if you belong to any disability, then you need a certificate. Along with that, maybe you might need a scribe to take the test. So there is a scribe affidavit as well, which is there on the CAT website. You can check it out. Now, academic details. Before you start filling the CAT application form, you're going to need your 10th, 12th, graduation if you're completed or you're pursuing, all the mark sheets of all the semesters or trimesters that you have. If you've done your master's or professional degree, you will need mark sheets of those as well. Do you need to upload these mark sheets in the CAT form? No. But you need them to calculate exactly what your scores are. So your opt-in score out of total marks and then percentage calculation, because you need to do all of this very accurately, you're going to need these mark sheets. So keep all of them at one place. The important thing also is going to be the conversion formula, which is where there's a lot of struggle that happens because some universities, boards do not have an exact formula. Now, what the CAT authority says is that if there is no conversion formula, in that case, you can use your obtained CGPA divided by maximum CGPA into 100. That is possible to do only if there is no specific formula which is given by your university or board to convert CGPA or grades to percentage. If that formula is there, you need to use that. For example, you may have something like, say, into 9.5, right? And if you have that, then you should have a proof that, okay, this is the conversion formula that we have. A lot of B schools also ask for it. So it's important that you keep it with you. And then finally, work experience. So if you have full-time work experience after graduation, that is what they consider. We'll talk more about WorkX as we progress, but you're going to need the documents for this. Again, you don't have to upload it in the CAT form, but what you need is going to be the start date and the end date. Okay, so because then it calculates exactly what is the tenure that you have spent. So that is why all the details, if you have one or more experiences, start date, end date, and any period of absence between this is going to be necessary on the CAT application form. Now, just want to show you how the actual form looks. Of course, for CAT 26, things might be a little different. They don't change the questions too much. So mostly it is going to be exactly the same. But for PWD students specifically, just wanted to highlight some points. For PWD, you need to indicate your category and you need to have a certificate as well, because you will have the UDID number, which is unique to you. So that number is again something that is going to be very crucial. If you're going to need a scribe, as I mentioned, there will be a scribe affidavit that you will have to fill and get it on the CAT day as well, right? So those things are important for the PWD candidates, especially those needing a scribe. Otherwise, if you don't need a scribe, you have your PWD certificate, you can just use that. For category students, this is how it looks. So it will ask you for your category. If you say NCOBC, for example, it will ask you for a certificate issue date, then the union territory or state where the certificate was issued, the serial or entry number of the caste, which is there in the central list of NCOBC, so you'll be able to find it, and then the caste or the tribe name. So for every state, there is a list that is published by the state. There's a central list as well where the categories are mentioned. So you are supposed to indicate that. But again, that is very specific to the application form. Right now, you don't have to worry about it. Once the actual form filling begins, we'll be covering that in a separate video. But today, what I want you to think of is, firstly, am I eligible in a particular category? If I am, let me get the documentation in place. Let me get my certificate, because if you look at the income, right, the assessment year should be 25-26. So because then that certificate will be valid for 26-27 admission. And that is why, because we are almost towards the end of the financial year, the financial year 25-26. Post this, you can apply for your EWS or NCOBC certificates and get that in time so that you can fill the CAT form accordingly. And the reason why I'm making this statement is because we have seen cases where students had to take CAT as a general candidate just because they could not get their NCOBC certificate in time. And then for some of the institutes, they were able to apply as NCOBC, but not for the IIMs, because in the CAT form, they could not show the details that they actually belong to NCOBC. So you don't want to do any delay on this front. Get the documentation done as soon as you can. Now for NCOBC and EWS, as I mentioned, this is where you need to be very careful. Firstly, the certificate should be issued after 1st April 2026. And that is why you use period from April till about September when you actually begin filling the form to get the document. For EWS candidates, the certificate must be valid for 26-27. Assessment, the financial year will be 25-26. Okay. Now, candidates who have applied for a certificate but have not received it. So it may happen that, let's say you do delay in this process. Let's say you end up applying in August. Now, you will not get the certificate maybe by the time the CAT registration deadline is. So that is why, if that happens, in that case, there is an undertaking which is there on the CAT website. But again, it's not the recommended course of action. First priority is, of course, getting a certificate. But if you don't get your certificate in time, in that case, you can fill that undertaking, which is for NCOBC and EWS candidates, that I have applied for a certificate. This is the receipt of that application. This is the application number. But I'm going to, because I don't have a certificate right now, please allow me to apply in this particular category, and I will get a certificate at a later point of time. So the older NCOBC EWS certificate will still be required. So you put all of this in a single PDF and then you upload. So a copy of the communication or the acknowledgement is important, right? It shows them that you have applied for that particular certificate. So undertaking, the older NCOBC EWS certificate, and a copy of your application is what will be required for you to apply under NCOBC or EWS if you're not going to get your certificate in time. But as I mentioned, do it as early as possible so that you don't have to worry about these things. Okay, now let's talk about the document section of the CAT form. So here you have to upload firstly your photo and your signature, which is very basic, nothing to be concerned about. The signature photo, they have some specification regarding file size and all of that, which is what you'll be able to take care of in September. Right now, as I said, NCOBC, SCST, EW certificate is the most important thing. Now, one very important thing here is that a lot of students have certificates issued in regional languages. So for NCOBC, SCST, PWD, EW certificates, they should be in the format issued by authority. But as I mentioned, if it covers all those points, you don't have to follow the format which is given by the authority. You may have an existing valid certificate, you can use it as it is, as long as it is Hindi or English. So if you have it in any other language, you'll still have to apply for a certificate in Hindi or English, get it, and then only you can upload it in the CAT form. So that is why, again, one important thing, so that you are better prepared by the time we reach September. Now, your name on the certificate should match with the name that you have mentioned during registration and all of that, which is very basic. So I'm sure all of you will take care of. If you have a PWD certificate, if you belong to PWD, that also has to be uploaded in this section. So the document upload section is just short, right? There isn't much to it apart from these things. So they are not going to ask you for your mark sheets. They are not going to ask you for your work experience certificates, okay? But these are the important documents that you'll have to upload. And very importantly, they tell you explicitly that you have to scan it using a scanner. So don't take like a photo or a screenshot of it and then you upload. Now regarding academics, very crucial, as I mentioned, the conversion is very, very important. You have to convert CGPA to percentage using the board or the university norms that are applicable to you. If you don't have anything, then as I said, CGPA, which is obtained by maximum, you can do that into 100 and then calculate percentages. So if you enter max marks, total marks obtained across subjects, that all of those things will be required. Percentage, very important, is going to be on all the subjects which appear on the mark sheet. A lot of students have this thing that, oh, on my 10th standard mark sheet, we used to do best of 5 subjects and not 6 subjects that appear. And that is how I have been calculating my percentage. CAT application form explicitly says that you have to include all subjects that appear on your mark sheet. So you have to use all of them, irrespective of the board guidelines. Then 10, 12, graduation, dual degree, post-graduation, professional qualification, whatever you have, just keep all your documents at one place for now, so that when you fill the CAT form, you can just enter those details. And for final year students, you have to enter all the subjects that you have completed so far. So if, let's say, by the time you fill the CAT application form, when you're in the final year, you have received marks for the first and the second year. In that case, you have to use all of them. So individual semesters or trimester system that you have, every single semester or trimester mark sheet, you'll have to use that for your calculation. So that decides your eligibility, that I am somebody who is eligible to take the CAT. Now on the CAT website, you'll also find something called a final year certificate. Is it required to be filled, and do you need to show it? Do you need to upload it in the CAT application form or show it on the CAT day? The answer is no. They have given a format, but any of the final year students don't necessarily need that certificate. So you don't have to get it signed by the principal or the dean of your college. It's not mandatory. But what happens is, in some cases, the student may have borderline marks, right? That they may have, let's say, 50%, 51% kind of marks, in which case they may need a certificate like it. But otherwise, it's not applicable to everybody. Now, work experience, very importantly, it is calculated as on July end of the CAT year, which means that when you take CAT 26, it is going to be July 26. So does that mean that any experience that you get after that is useless? No, that is not the case, because when you get shortlisted by the IMs, they will ask you to fill application, they'll ask you to fill an updated form. And in that form, you will be able to enter your work experience as on a certain date. Some colleges will say, okay, fill it as on 31st December or say 31st Jan and so on. In fact, there are exams where they ask you to fill your experience as on March end or May end, etc. But so your experience is not useless post July. Don't think that way. Just in the CAT form, you have to enter it as on July end, because the CAT application typically begins on 1st August. Full-time experience after graduation is considered. anything which is part-time, anything that you did as an internship, as an articleship, something that you did during graduation, that is not considered as work experience. Now, what do they ask for? They ask for name of the organization, your designation, start date and end date, and then if there was any break in experience, let's say you took a sabbatical for 45 days, so you can enter it. The details can be mentioned, and then total experience is what it will calculate on its own. So it calculates start date, so end date minus start date minus the days that you had the break for, and then it will calculate your experience. If you have multiple experiences, you just add to it. Okay. Do you need to upload offer letters? No. Do you need to upload any joining letters or relieving letters or work certificates? No. Nothing to be uploaded in the CAT form, but you should have it so that because when you go for the final your interviews, they do a thorough document verification, and at that time it is going to be required. Okay, so don't put anything which is just random. Also exclude any of this. So part-time experience, projects, internship, articleship, pre-graduation work ex, all of that has to be excluded when you fill the CAT form. Treat this with extreme sincerity, because a lot of students, what they do is they think that they'll be able to fool the authority, but at a later point of time, if they find that you have lied about your work experience, it will become a problem. And the simple reason for that is, imagine somebody filling this section by including some sort of articleship, right? You may show, say, 2 years of articleship. Now, because you have entered 2 years, they're going to give you points for work experience, which is part of shortlisting process. So you may get a shortlist. Now you have been invited for an interview, but when they verify your documents, they see that there's discrepancy, then it becomes a problem for you. Okay, so don't lie about your work experience. Then the program selection. So in CAT application form, you can apply to all the IMs just through a single CAT application form. What they ask for, you will see a very long list. We give a standard recommendation to students that you apply for all the IMs. So don't skip any of them. And you just need to indicate the interview city. So if you get shortlisted for, let's say, IM A PGP, where would you want to appear for your interview? You give 1 or 2 preferences. In some cases, it's only 1 preference. So PGP, FABM, if you get a shortlist, then what? So you'll have all the IMs, all the programs that they offer, and you just need to fill this section. Okay, so, but no documents are required for this. So you could be engineer, non-engineer, whatever, doesn't really matter. You can fill all the IMs here. Okay, so don't worry about that. Then the one section that comes after programs is going to be the test city. So in CAT application form, it will ask you for 5 city preferences. There's a very common misconception that people think that submitting the form early on the first day guarantees your first city, first preference. No, it doesn't work that way. In fact, last year I was very surprised that the sheer number of people who fill the CAT form on the first day is huge, because I started filling my form, and by the time I got my CAT registration number, there were almost, I think, 400 or more students who had filled the form, right? And that's just about maybe 1 or 2 hours after they started the application. So you don't have to hurry. You don't have to fill it on day 1. But you take your time, you upload it, you make sure that you have entered everything correctly, you check it multiple times and all of that, and you submit it, let's say, with nice 10, 15, 20 days to go before the registration window ends. So don't fill it on day 1, don't fill it on the last day, because there could be some issues that will happen. On first day, they may have, let's say, last year I remember what happened was it was auto-calculating percentages, and that was a glitch, because they should give you an option to manually enter your percentage. So it was auto-calculating last time, which should not be the case. Otherwise, that CGPA to percentage conversion formula requirement is meaningless. Now they rectified that, and on the last day, why you should not fill it is because there is a lot of server load that will happen, so the website might crash, etc. Though typically it will not happen with CAT. But yes, to avoid all of those things, fill it somewhere in the middle of the entire registration window. Now, 5 city preferences you can put. It's a good thing that you can do that. But yes, again, you can indicate the nearest city and then the farthest city from your place. But again, don't think that if you fill it on day 1 or whatever, you give the first city means you will get your first city, right? There have been instances where people have got 3rd or the 4th or the 5th preference as well. Now, one important question that some of you may have, that, okay, what if after taking care of all of these things also, I end up making some mistake? Okay, so the first thing is to avoid mistakes, right? So prevention is better than cure. You follow that ideology here as well. So be careful while filling the form. Don't make any mistakes. Now, if you make a mistake, there is they have help desk. You can raise a ticket, something that they started last year. where rather than emailing it to them, you can raise a ticket via the dashboard itself that this is the issue that has happened. After the closure of the registration window, they also open a small correction window. But in that correction window, these are the only things that are editable. So you can edit your photo, signature, and test city preferences. Those are the only 3 editable things in the correction window. So let's say I filled my CAT form, I submitted it. In that, I have made a mistake in terms of my category selection. Can I rectify that during correction window? No. If I've uploaded, let's say, slightly off looking photograph, not very clear, can I fix that in correction window? Yes. So only photo, signature, and test city preferences are editable in the correction window. All other mistakes, if you have made any of those, you will have to reach out to help desk via this option. So in your candidate dashboard itself, you have help desk. You can raise a query there. So they have asked for problem category, problem type, and problem statement. So you can explain what the issue is. Let's say, for example, maybe a particular mark sheet, right? You entered data incorrectly. You calculated percentages to be, say, 91%, but in fact you have 93%. Now you want to give them the document and tell them that, okay, I entered my wrong data. Now this is the actual document, this is the conversion, I should be at 93, I need to fix that. So you fill all of these details, upload the required document, and wait for them to make the change. But as I mentioned, please don't make any mistakes, because if, let's say, for whatever reasons it's something that cannot be fixed, the only option then that you have is to use a different mobile number, use a different email ID, create a new account, and make the entire payment again. There's no other option. And that is why, if you don't want to do that, take your time, fill the CAT form properly, and submit it. Okay. The reason why I'm recording this video is to help you plan all of this thing better. So between April and September, you have sufficient time to get all of the documents in place so that you don't make any mistakes when you actually reach the registration window. Okay. So I hope that has helped you, and I'll see you very soon in the next episode of the Definitive Guide to CAD. Hope you're finding this useful and you've been watching all the videos. And in case you haven't subscribed to the channel, do it right away. Thank you so much and wish all of you all the best. I'll see you soon.